As I promised, I would inform you on the captains. This morning, we elected three captains: Drew Tranquil, Sam Mustipher, and Tyler Newsome. Really excited about the leadership that they have provided our football team. Certainly, Drew last year, again being a captain again this year, was. I think we had 88 ballots cast. I think he was mentioned on 85% of those ballots. So pretty impressive. I'm going to elect a fourth captain, and that will occur after spring. And just the method behind that is that we had in total 25 players receive vote for captain. And we had about 6 or 7 that were log jammed in that fourth position. So today I announced the top 3 and put their names up on the big screen here, and then the vote totals for everybody else with no names. So they know vote totals are really close, and I want them to compete for that fourth position. So we'll have a lot of guys that think that they have the fourth amount of votes, and it'll empower our guys to continue to lead. So at the end of spring, we'll have an announcement for that fourth captain. So that was the announcement I promised you. The rest, we'll open it up to questions. Eric, we normally start over here, so let's.
Brian, with Sam, he had kind of a couple of games a couple of years ago where there was a lot of attention focused on him for the wrong reasons, really came back strong. Can you kind of take us through the process of him kind of turning things around? And again, he's around strong personalities, and yet he's emerged as a leader.
Yeah, 2-year starter, overcame, I think he's got grit, he's got all the things off the field, engineering student who's graduated, great student, great role model, represents Notre Dame football in the manner that you would want your student athletes. He just has an immense amount of respect from his peers, coaches, players. I met with each unit, the offense and defense, and what was said was that this is not a popularity contest, and this is not about production. This is about those guys that you don't want to let down. Who's the guy that you don't want to let down? And he's a guy they don't want to let down.
Coach, I think a lot of us would have guessed, obviously, Tranquil and Sam Mustipher. What has Tyler Newsome done to kind of emerge as a leader from?
For the last 2 years, he has carried the message for our football program on a day-to-day basis relative to traits over talent. He's been a SWAT leader and maybe one of our best in terms of holding players accountable. And it starts with him. He's been, anytime there's been, a SWAT run where a team hasn't done the things the right way during the week or has been low total points, he's been there every morning. You got to understand, he had over 51% of the votes, and where Sam and Drew benefit from a unit that they're with, he's got 4 guys that he's with on a day-to-day basis on another field, and to get that kind of vote as a punter sends a strong message about how he's looked at by his peers. Because you're like, he's the punter, right? He doesn't hang around with us. He's not with us in unit, but yet to garner that kind of support says a lot about how he's perceived.
Of those SWAT units, that kind of empowers him to have that type of a voice.
Yeah, you would never get it if you didn't have leadership down the line, and so part of it is to build that leadership down the line, and he's taken advantage of that.
Is there still a requirement to have a certain GPA?
Yeah, they have to be cleared to our faculty athletic board, so our faculty rep Tricia Belia has to champion that for us, which she did, and had them cleared yesterday. I knew the vote total yesterday, so we were able to get them cleared and quickly announce them.
You added Josh Adams last August because of what he displayed throughout the summer and them. Are you leaving the door open for another addition like that in the summer as well, or are you going to leave it at 4?
No, I think it's at 4. I think that's looking at the votes and the way they are. We'll take Drew and we'll take Sam and Tyler off the ballot, and we'll just have them vote without them on the ballot, and I think that'll clearly get us our 4th.
Brian, when you do this, does the vote ever surprise you, and do you ever feel like you need to add somebody, by
Well,
your vote?
I've always said it's a limited democracy, right, in terms of, how you want things to go. But in this instance, my message this year has been about peer accountability. So if last year I made the decisions, and they knew that. They knew that a lot of things last year were going to be made by me, and we were going to get the culture back to where it needed to be. This is clearly an attempt in the second year, and I want to be careful, not an attempt as much as this has clearly been a path of empowering our football team to take this over. And so it's hard to vote for captains and not let them be clearly involved in the process.
Brian, thinking back from maybe a year ago, you made a lot of changes, you tried to do a lot of different things. Now that you've had a chance to kind of assess all of that, how do you feel you've done so far in trying to fix exactly what you'd like to fix?
Well, we've got, we've got the proper culture that we want within our football program. Our players are exhibiting the kind of habits necessary that champions need. We've got a coaching staff that's cohesive. We're building an identity every single day, both on offense, defense, and special teams. We have a support staff that is, working hard to provide the resources. So, I feel pretty good. Many times I've said this is like year 2 for me, in terms of making sure that we're, positioned in the right place right now and for the future. I don't, we're reminded by the past, but we're living in the present, and I really like where we are right now.
You've mentioned, Miami was kind of the one thing that stood out to you as kind of the. How do you go about avoiding that? How do you, how much of that is coaches need to motivate, and how much is it the players themselves need to stand up when things get tough?
Yeah, it was a perfect storm, and I'm not going to spend too much time on one particular game as much as what we're trying to create with our football team is a really a mental toughness that allows you to play through that. Look, and I said this to the team, and I'll say it here right now. We have to play better in November, and we're aware of that. So as we build our habits on a day-to-day basis, we're building it towards certainly beating Michigan in our opener, protecting our home field, and playing better in November. If we hit those 3 mileposts, we'll be in pretty good shape this next season.
Brian, you had a variety of personality traits as captains last year. We're intentional about that with the test you gave.
Yeah.
Do you see these 3 guys as more similar or more different? Is that important?
No, I think it reflected in the way they were voted. They are not similar, and they are dissimilar. Sam is, I guess you could say that Sam and Drew exhibit similar traits academically as both being engineering students and grade students, but one's on offense, one's defensive. They play differently. They interact differently with their groups. Sam is really big on involvement with his group. Drew's not necessarily, he's engaged, but he's not Sam. And Tyler is, he kind of marches to a different tune. So they are different personalities, and I applaud our team. we didn't have like wasted ballots. Like, you know, we didn't have like guys voting for, you know, whoever. You know, it was nice to see that we didn't have a bunch of throwaway ballots in there.
Brian, what were some of the things that jumped out at you at today's first practice?
I think first and foremost the intensity of our defense. You know, it started with our run support drill. You know, it's something that you do every day, but you could see a difference in the way we ran to the football. You know, there were times last year that, you know, and we made progress last year, make no mistake about it, but there's a different feel about the way this defense is moving around, the intensity of the group. That stood out to me today. Offensively, the quarterback, you know, Brandon Wimbush, you know, you can see a big difference in his footwork, throwing the football with the kind of assertiveness that you want to see. Those two things stood out to me. And, you know, we're a little thin in some areas where, you know, we're going to have to be very careful in the way we practice. So on the positives, I love the intensity of our defense, the way we ran around, the enthusiasm. Again, it's the first day, right? Everybody's going to be pretty excited, but I really, that stood out. And then Brandon, in particular's footwork today.
I think early in your tempo, you kind of pulled them off and had something to say to them. What was your message there?
Yeah, it's where we kind of, you know, kick off practice, and I don't want them to take for granted anything that we do, and so similarly to where the defense starts with their run support, which kind of sets the tone for practice. You know, I didn't want our tempo to be, let's check this box. You know, we had a couple of assignment errors in our tempo drill. It's a time for the offense to lock in mentally. It's a much different drill than it is for offensively, where you're busting it across the field and sprinting through the cone. Whereas offensively, this is where you tune in. You really focus, lock in, no mistakes, and I wanted to remind them of that.
Did you listen for Clark Lee today just to see how he...
Well, I've been in his meetings, so it is a decidedly different approach in a sense of how he communicates, but he communicates extremely effectively, and I love his meetings. It is a combination of utilizing different teaching techniques through video, PowerPoint, one-on-one conversations. Pretty excited about where that's going.
When you say difference, do you mean Lee to Elko or Lee last year to Lee this year?
No, Lee to Elko. Yeah, Lee to Elko.
Overall, the quarterbacks, including Ian, how do you feel they did? Obviously, you mentioned Brandon's footwork. How did you feel both fared on day one?
Yeah, I walk away. You know, day one for a head coach is, you know, you sometimes have to look away. You know, it's sloppy. Today was not a sloppy first practice. The ball came out on time. It was in many areas such a stark difference to what I saw last year. I'll feel pretty good after today's practice, knowing that I'll watch the same thing on film. I'll temper my excitement, but I feel pretty good about what I saw today.
What about quarterbacks going live each year? You probably decide how much you want that done. Have you made a decision on how much you want those guys to get hit this spring?
Brandon won't get hit and Ian won't get hit, but Avery will let him compete. You know, he hasn't played yet, so generally the guys that haven't played any football at all, I'd like to get them in the mix. You know, Avery's going to play a couple of different positions after he settles in at the quarterback position and has a good sense of that, but he would be the only one. Anything else?
Brian, last year you spread yourself around because you wanted to be more involved with all parts of the team. In the spring, this spring in particular, do you feel like you still want to do that, or are there times where you feel like you want to hone in on a certain position group?
No, I think I probably want to move around a little bit more, Eric. I want to see Coach Quinn with the offensive line. You know, I think it's important that I'm able to evaluate Terry, and not that I'm looking over his work, because I have great trust in his experience, but I want to see him and see his interactions. You know, as Pete mentioned, I want to see the entire dynamics of the defensive group, and we're a little shorthanded on offense, so I want to make sure that I stay over there and make sure that we're not, trying to win the drill with not enough guys. You know, let's get some of these walk-ons in there. If they get some time in there, that's fine too. So I think, that and special teams are making some changes, special teams scheme-wise, that I'd like to be involved in as well. So I think from that perspective, I'll probably be floating around a little bit more. Good, everybody? All right, thanks.
Everybody.